Hi guys, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you have landed on GingerChickRehab, where I love to take secondhand finds and make them over and share the process with you, all of what I do to them. And sometimes I get new items and I craft and do DIY. So in today's video, it's a little bit of both. So I have some inspiration from the Portobello Road stamps via the new release from IOD. And this is not going to be your average house, y'all, along with a thrifted item that I am making both of them into something spooky. Okay, cute, spooky. So I found this super cute little primitive house. It's just made out of MDF board, but I just love all the windows in it. It's supposed to have a light, but the light is missing. And then something was on the top of this. It has like some glue and some brad nails that need to be removed. So we're going to start off with removing those first. And as I'm removing them, I think the hanging system, the wire was added on after the piece was bought, and it's so close to me getting those staples out that I think I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. I don't think that I envision this as something that's going to hang. That I have the brads out, I need to go ahead and try to get the rest of the glue. MDF board kind of will raise up as you're pulling something out, so I need to get that smoothed down. And I want to make this into something spooky, so I don't really think a Rusty Christie star is too spooky. So it looks like it just has a couple little nails that are holding it on. The paint texture of this piece is one of those paint jobs that just marks up so easily, like it doesn't have a finished coat on it. So I'm going to go over the entire object and just give it a nice sanding. And then we're going to go back in, and where I pulled out that wire, pulled out those brad nails, took off that glue, I'm going to do a little bit of wood filler to fill in those holes. I'm not going to worry about the big hole in the back because I'm sure that's always going to be turned. After doing a little bit of sanding to sand smooth after that wood filler dried, I'm just going to go ahead and clean the entire piece. So on this little primitive house to be dark, so we're going for Fusion's Coal Black. And are you like me? Do you use every bit of paint that you possibly can? So it's a little bit thicker when you get down to the end of that, so I might add a little mister bottle to help smooth it out, but I want to use every drop that I can. Yep, just going to go ahead and paint it back. The nice thing about Fusion paint is it has a primer, a paint, and a top coat all in one, so I don't have to worry about doing a finish coat if I don't want to. But this will definitely not be that marked up type of paint like what was on there previously. Now that we have this all painted up, I want to test out fairy lights. I thought about ordering one of the bulbs that fit in the back from Amazon, but sometimes you just see that bulb. It just is one of those things, and you have the long cord, and your options aren't as many when you have to plug it into someplace. So I'm like, well, I have these fairy lights that I get off Amazon. Love buying the fairy lights. You can buy them in a pack of 12, so they're small. You don't have to worry about a plug-in. You can just feed it in there and then have the whole object lighted up. So now I want to put something spooky where my star was, and I have these labels that are decoupage paper from Recycle, and I'm trying to find something that I think will fit in the middle where I took that star away. And I think this little tag that's supposed to be on like an apothecary jar bottle will work. It's a little bit longer than I need it to be, but I can cut it down to fit. This label, it has two little skeletons. It says arsenic. So I'm able to keep the skeletons and the wording, just eliminated some of the other wording. And then after I got it on, I'm like, well, since it's not wrapped around the whole black, I'm going to take all that black lining off. that I have that signage in the middle of the windows, I'm going to go back in and distress it. I thought I was just going to leave it black, but because you can see the MDF board from the inside, and I still see a little bit of my brush strokes because my paint was thick, y'all. It was just thick because I was at the end of the jar. So I'm just taking some 220 sandpaper and just smoothing it down and distressing it here and there, especially around those windowsills to give it that aged look. And I don't want to forget about my signage. I don't want that to look like crisp paper that I just glued on. I want to give that a little bit of age also by sanding those edges. And then now I'm going to add my spooky. I have these ghosts. There's a lady that makes these. I can't link them for you. That has a booth across from one of our booths, and they are so super cute. I love the age. Everything about them. The only thing I wish is that they were going in different directions. I guess I could flip it over, but you'd see a seam. There's a seam where she sewed it for the stuffing, so if you flip it over and put eyes, you'd see that seam. So they're just all going to be going in the same direction. So just adding some hot glue in some random places. I said it's spooky but yet cute. Now, as easy as that was, this one may be a little bit more on the difficult side. Not necessarily difficult, messy. It's going to be more messy. So I have this pumpkin. I cannot believe how much these carvable foam pumpkins are. When I went to Hobby Lobby, I'm like, I picked one up for $159. I don't care that it's 40% off. That is way too much money. So I ended up going over to Michael's, and I think this one was like $14.99. Still a little bit pricey. But anyway, there's that, y'all. So find these thrifting if you can. So I have a whole bunch of lunch sacks. I did that snowflake craft for Christmas for a couple years, so I have a whole bunch in my stash. So we're going to be cutting these up to use them to decoupage the foam pumpkin. Now these are the carvable foam pumpkins, or I'm sure there's hollow foam, whatever pumpkin that you find. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting up these are just regular size lunch sacks, whatever you have, whatever color you want. I want that brown paper look. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it down the seam. I'm going to cut that bottom off. That's not going to be really workable for making strips. And then when I get the bottom cut off, there's always that double layer of where the paper overlaps. So I'll go back in and I will cut that off also. I don't want you to see where the paper was folded, so we're just going to wad it up like we're throwing it into the trash. So I'm going to make a whole bunch of them because I'm going to need a whole bunch of strips to cover this pumpkin. So now it's time to make the strips, and all I'm going to do is just start ripping the paper. And at first I did it the really long way, and I'm like, well, that's not ripping randomly as I wanted it to. So, your first one's always your tester to see if you like it or not. So I ended up changing my mind. It actually ripped easier going the other way. Thought I should share some of my vision because you're probably like, what is going on here? So the Portobello Road stamps have windows and doors. And this was my idea to make a little pumpkin house. I love these. I love the doors and the windows on the stamp set. Okay, so now you may understand my vision a little bit better, why I needed like a tall pumpkin. So at first I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and Mod Podge on there. And I'm like, no way, this would take forever forever to do something like that. So nope, 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 nope. So we'll pour some Mod Podge in a bowl. We'll add some water. We'll make that old school decoupage where you water it down and then put your pieces of paper in there. I told you this was going to be a messy DIY craft. So yep, I'm just going to soak it right in there. I'm going to try to like squeegee some of the solution off the paper before, yep, just laying it on. And I'm going to start right from the stem area and try to butt that paper up as much to the stem as I possibly can. So I really wanted to find some Halloween spooky music that was uncopyrighted that I could use in, the video for the season, and I could not find anything that was available for download. That I have Christmas music, but I guess there just isn't any out there, meaning that if I used it, it would get me unmonetized. So I'm sorry for no theme appropriate music in this video. I tried my best to match some of what I have up. So now that I have the first half cover up, I'm just taking a paper towel, some paper towels, and I'm just dabbing some of that excess off. I ended up putting it on one of my Lazy Susan turntables, some wax paper underneath because that's just going to start running. Because this is a foam pumpkin, none of that is absorbing in. So once I added it, the liquid started to flow. So just needed to dab it off so there's not so much liquid. Now I need to do the bottom. So the same thing, I'm just working from like that. I could have cut the strips like in half and made it like evenly in the bottom, but it's going to sit on its bottom. My hands were already really messy, so I wasn't going to deal with trying to cut it up paper. So I'm just going to butt this up into that top piece. Then after getting the bottom and the top both done, I'm going to lay another piece over the face area because you're going to see a seam where the two are bedded up. Either way, if I did it from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom, you're going to see that seam, and I don't want that to be your focal point. So I'm just going to lay another piece. I have plenty of strips that I've already cut to cover that up. So kind of like doubling them up just in certain areas. Yes, I took a lot of that excess off with some paper towels, but now it's time to make my doors and windows. So I had to pick out which stamp I wanted to use, and I just have some more of the lunch sack that I cut up. I'm just going to use packing tape to hold my stamp. It's nice because that makes like a little handles on both sides. I'm just using IOD's ink, which is a permanent ink, so when I add Mod Podge to it, it will not run. And I'm just going to make a whole bunch of windows because I crinkled up the paper. It's going to be a little hard to get that good impression, so I'll just pick out the best of the best. Now that I have options, I'll go ahead and pick out which of the stamp impressions are my favorite that I will use on my pumpkin. And then to completely not so it doesn't have crisp lines, I'm just going to tear that paper just around it. I don't want to tear into my stamp, my impression by any means, but I do want to give it that ragged edge look. Now I'm just going to directly put Mod Podge on the back of this just so I have like better placement. I do notice when I like immerse that in that watered down Mod Podge that the material, the paper itself does stretch a bit. So I kind of want a little bit easier of a control to place these on. So I have one door, four windows, and I'm just, it's not a perfectly round object. It's not a perfectly flat object. So it's just a little bit easier to put that Mod Podge on the back. And I know at the moment it does not match, but I'm not too worried because I know that I can add more of the liquid down to make it match. But now I just need to pick out my placement. So yeah, I ended up putting 5, one in the middle. Now it's funny because they don't really look even, but if you run like something straight, like a ruler, like and run it, you're like, okay, well they match up. It's just how that illusion is of how the pumpkin is itself because it's not flat. But it does not have to be perfect, it is just a fun, spooky house. So yes, adding the watered down will definitely help blend the color in a little bit better. Now I need to cover up my stem and I want to make sure that it's going to attach. I'm not going to make the stem quite yet. I'm just going to be wrapping some of the extra I have laying around here just to wrap up that stem. It's a really short, squatty stem. So all I'm doing is taking a couple pieces. I'm actually twisting them so it gives that spiraling effect. You know how the pumpkin stems twist. And then I'm just going to wrap a couple pieces up until it is covered up. Now I thought that I could use like some stick pins to hold it in place because the watered down didn't really want to stick in that type of position. I can't say that the pins, it really didn't want to stick into that pumpkin. So it did hold it for a little bit until I could get it all built up there. But yeah, the stick pins didn't really work. I just kind of had to hold and press until it like decided it wanted to adhere. So I'm going to try to dab off as much of the excess I can, put it on a fresh sheet of wax paper to make sure that it's not bonding to the wax paper or pooling up. And then I'm going to let this completely dry overnight before doing the stem. So now it's the next day, we're going to be working on the stem. So it's the same thing about cutting your bags. We need that bottom portion to be off. It just does, it's not workable. It makes lumps. It's not easy to twist. So we're just going to go ahead and cut that off. Now for the next part of making the stems and some little vinies coming down, the watered down version really does not work because you need that sticky substance of the Mod Podge to stick together. Even like covering up that top stem part probably would have worked better if I did this kind of technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to put Mod Podge on both sides. So when I go to flip it over, I'm going to put some wax paper down Try not to get my Cricut mat all so messy. But yeah, this is just one of those projects. So now, here we go. So release it from the wax paper, and now I need to start twisting. So twisting at the tip all the way down is going to make it chunkier thicker as I work down the stem. So just nice little twist. And the nice thing about it not having that watered down is that it's really sticking on itself a lot better. So now I can go ahead and then I can attach it to that stem. I left that kind of open so it will overlap, and then I can just twist that paper around. So bigger stem or bigger paper to make a bigger stem if I wanted to, but I don't want it to be too overpowering. So after I get that on, I want to take some strips and make some little vinies. There's always like those little vinies, kind of like I want those growing down the house a little bit. So same technique of twisting them with just Mod Podge. And that is really helping that adhere much better than the watered down version onto itself. So the tip of the little vine, I'm going to have to put a little extra Mod Podge to get it to stick because that already started to dry out. But oh, such a super cute, yes, a messy, but super cute project. I am loving it as I'm getting these vines on here. As you see, I'm kind of attaching it in, tucking it in that main one, kind of twisting it as I'm rolling it down, kind of let the twist do what the twist does, pushing against that paper so that it's good and adhered. Some of them will stick out a little bit. That is what really giving it that realistic look. So then I took a couple like smaller pieces so that I didn't have great huge chunks of the vine all the time, and then made some small and little trembly pieces. I want to add some leaves in here, but I don't want them to be all colored, of course. But I just picked this pack up at the Dollar Tree store. I love when you can buy things on the cheap. So I'm just picking out some, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Fusions paint in the coal black and get them painted up. So they paint up really easy. The paint's pretty much just going right through it, but I'm just going to make sure that none of that green is showing by flipping them over. After getting them all painted up, and now that they're dry, I can't say my Mod Podge is going to take a little while to dry, y'all, but anyway, I'm just going to take some hot glue and I'm going to start attaching them randomly throughout the vining area, make them look like they're coming off those vines. Here is where the cuteness factor comes in. Not only did she have those ghosts, but she had these bats. Oh my gosh. Yes, you could have Cricut bats out of paper if you aren't available to buy something like this. That would be super cute too, the little flying bats. But I just happen to have these little cuties. I have 3, so I'm just going to randomly attach them. That's why I wasn't going to stress out that my windows weren't completely level. They weren't perfect. It's not a flat space. I just think it is a fun craft project. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Yes. Okay, so my motivation was that little door and those windows, and that's all I could see via spooky season. And I know it's supposed to be like a Christmas holiday collection, but Halloween's a holiday, so, kinda. So anyway, yeah, I love that pumpkin. Was it messy? Oh yeah, it was a messy, and it was gorgeous. It was fun. It was out of the box. That is the thing about crafting. It's fun to take it to the next level. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Do something that you haven't done. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't. If it does, it's even better. But I love it. Love how it turned out. So would you ever have thought about Mod Podging a pumpkin using lunch sacks? I absolutely love the neutral palette it makes. Brown and black. How simple can you get? Yes, you could have embellished it with colors if you wanted to. Making the stem was a lot of fun. Also, yes, there's two different types of Mod Podging, where you like the old way of decoupaging where you water down, and then you have the other way of like you really need that Mod Podge to stick that stem together. But my inspiration was those little bitty bats. I have a lady that sells them across from one of our booths at the antique mall that we're in. So I'm always looking to see what cuties she has. And those bats were so super cute, of course, with the ghost. So I knew that I had to start looking for something that I could create with those. Yes, just a simple little primitive house. Take the star out, make it into a spooky house, light it, put a little ghost. Oh my gosh, how simple. Not every craft has to be hard. So I did one that was time consuming, one was kind of fast, but it's okay. It's about how the results look. So let me know down in the comments below, have I inspired you to do any of these two crafts? Oh, they were a lot of fun. So thanks again for watching. We will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.